Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in your life when you realize you've been living on autopilot, chasing goals, chasing approval, chasing a version of success that was never yours to begin with. And then it hits you, you're not here to repeat old patterns. You're here to rewrite the rules. You're here to rise, to reclaim, to remember the power you've buried beneath years of fear and doubt. Because after this moment, after this truth, you'll never look at your habits, your mindset, or your potential the same way again. And ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life that shake us, moments that demand that we stop, look at ourselves in the mirror and ask, what the hell am I doing with my life? This is one of those moments, because after this, you'll never see your habits, your time, your energy, or your potential the same way again. And you've been taught to chase goals, to climb ladders, to get the job, the house, the recognition. But what if everything you've been chasing was built on the wrong foundation? What if success isn't about doing more, but about doing differently? About raising your standards so high that average becomes unacceptable, and most people live their lives reacting. They wake up tired, they scroll through their phones, they go through the motions, and they call that living. But that's not living, that's surviving. The difference between the people who thrive and the people who merely exist is that one group made a decision. A decision that their life will be lived on their terms. A decision to stop being driven by fear and start being pulled by vision. And you see, change doesn't happen when you feel ready. It happens when you get sick of your own excuses, when you reach a point where staying the same hurts more than the pain of change. That's when transformation starts. When you say, I'm done playing small, I'm done letting fear make my decisions, I'm done pretending I don't know what I'm capable of. And every single day, you're reinforcing patterns whether you realize it or not. Your thoughts create emotions, your emotions drive your actions, and your actions shape your reality. If you want to change your life, you've got to interrupt that pattern. You've got to take control of your emotional state, because the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. And think about it. How often do you wait for motivation before you take action? That's backwards. Motivation is the result of action, not the cause. You move your body, you change your focus, you change your energy, and suddenly your mind follows. You've been living with the brakes on, waiting for permission to start moving. It's time to rip those brakes off and drive like you mean it. And you've been programmed to believe you have limits. That you can't be too ambitious, too passionate, too intense. That's nonsense. The only limits you have are the ones you've accepted. Somewhere along the way, you started settling for less money, less love, less joy, less aliveness. But deep down, you know you're capable of more. You've always known that voice inside you, the one that whispers that you were made for something greater. It's not lying. You've just been ignoring it. And you don't need to wait for a new year, a promotion, or some perfect moment to change. You need to decide right now, because every decision you make either moves you closer to your power or further away from it. There's no neutral ground. Every time you hit snooze, every time you doubt yourself, every time you choose comfort over courage, you're voting for the life you don't want. And every time you take action in the face of fear, you're voting for the life you deserve. And the truth is, your life is a reflection of your standards. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. If you tolerate stress, you'll have it. If you tolerate mediocrity, it will surround you. But if you raise your standards, if you make excellence your baseline, everything shifts. Because life doesn't respond to your wishes, it responds to your expectations backed by consistent action. And you can't just hope things will get better. You have to demand it from yourself. You have to train your mind to find opportunity where others see obstacles. To see growth in discomfort, to see lessons in failure, because the truth is, you don't grow when things are easy, you grow when things challenge you, stretch you, and force you to evolve. And it's time to stop living on autopilot. Stop waiting for external circumstances to give you permission to feel alive. You are the source of your own energy. You decide what moments mean. You decide how to respond. The same event that breaks one person can build another. It all comes down to interpretation. The moment you start mastering meaning, you start mastering life. And when you wake up tomorrow, don't just think about what you need to do. Think about who you need to become. What would the most powerful version of you do today? How would they walk, talk, think, and feel? Step into that version now. Don't wait for confidence to show up. Create it through movement, through certainty, through repetition. Because repetition is the mother of skill and the father of mastery, and you've got to condition your mind every day. Feed it with something that expands you. Surround yourself with people who demand more of you than you demand of yourself. Because environment matters. You can't plant a seed of greatness in toxic soil and expect it to grow. You need to create an environment where growth is inevitable mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And don't you dare underestimate the power of gratitude. Gratitude isn't just about being thankful, it's about changing your focus. When you live in gratitude, you stop focusing on what's missing and start focusing on what's possible. You stop living in scarcity and start living in abundance. And when your mind lives in abundance, your actions follow. But gratitude without hunger is complacency. Hunger without gratitude is misery. You need both. You need to appreciate what you have while relentlessly pursuing what you can become. That's the balance of fulfillment. And you've got to start asking yourself better questions. Instead of why is this happening to me, ask what's this trying to teach me. Instead of why can't I do this, ask how can I make this work. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your life, because questions direct focus, and focus is power. Where focus goes, energy flows, and every area of your life, your health, your relationships, your business, will transform when you master your focus. Stop feeding what drains you and start feeding what drives you. Because the more energy you give to problems, the bigger they grow. The more energy you give to possibility, the faster you rise. And understand this: discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. Most people think freedom is doing whatever they want, whenever they want, but that's chaos. True freedom is the ability to do what's right even when it's hard. It's the ability to follow through on your commitments, to do what you said you'd do long after the mood you said it in has passed. And your brain is always listening. Every time you say I can't, you're programming yourself to quit. Every time you say I will, you're building belief. Words create reality. Speak with power, act with purpose, move with certainty. Because the world doesn't give you what you ask for, it gives you what you fight for. And right now, you're standing at a crossroads. You can keep living the way you've been living, safe, predictable, comfortable. Or you can make a decision that changes everything. A decision to live with intensity. A decision to live with passion. A decision to step into your potential so fully that there's no going back. And the life you want is waiting on the other side of your excuses. The person you were meant to be is waiting on the other side of your fear. It's not about doing more. It's about being more, because once you shift who you are, everything you do transforms automatically. And after this, you'll change how you do everything, because you'll finally understand it's not about changing your circumstances. It's about changing you, and once you change you, the entire world begins to shift around you. The people you attract change. The opportunities that show up change. The way you carry yourself, the way you walk into a room, the energy that radiates from you. It all transforms. Because when you raise your vibration, you start resonating with a higher level of life. You stop chasing and things start aligning. You stop begging for approval and you start commanding respect. The universe doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. So, if you want more, you must become more, and every single day you're sculpting your identity. Every choice, every word, every thought. It's either reinforcing the old you or building the new one. The person you're becoming is shaped in the smallest decisions. It's in whether you say no to distractions. It's in whether you finish what you start. It's in whether you do the hard thing even when no one's watching. Because integrity isn't about what you show the world, it's about the standards you hold when you're alone. And you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what it means to you. Life will always test you. That's its way of asking, how badly do you really want this? The moment you decide to rise, you'll be challenged. You'll face resistance, criticism, and doubt, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally doing something that matters. Growth demands friction, transformation demands fire, and the fire that once scared you will one day become your fuel. And you've got to stop negotiating with your old self, stop reasoning with your excuses, stop trying to fit your new dreams into your old patterns. You can't live an extraordinary life with ordinary habits. The habits that got you here won't get you there. You must destroy the patterns that no longer serve you, break the cycle of procrastination, of comfort, of fear, driven hesitation, because every time you hesitate, you give your power away, and you've got to train your mind like a warrior trains their body. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with, it's something you build, repetition by repetition, moment by moment. Every time you push through when you want to quit, you strengthen your identity. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're rewriting your future. Every time you silence that voice that says maybe later, you're proving that you're in control. And the problem is, most people try to change their behavior without changing their identity. They try to act successful while still thinking like a victim. They want confidence but keep feeding themselves doubt. They want abundance but still operate from scarcity. You can't outwork a belief system that's built on limitation. You've got to rewire the foundation. You've got to start seeing yourself differently. Because once you change the story you tell yourself, your actions automatically follow. And ask yourself, who do I believe I am? Because that belief is the thermostat of your life. You'll never rise higher than the identity you've accepted. You can try to force success temporarily, but if your subconscious identity doesn't match your goals, you'll always sabotage your results. You'll find a way to fall back to what feels familiar, even if it's painful. The only way to create lasting change is to raise your sense of who you are. And you have to start embodying the identity of the person who already has what you want. How do they think? How do they act? How do they respond to challenges? You must condition yourself to think from the place of victory, not struggle. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you believe you deserve. So if you want to change everything, upgrade your beliefs. Upgrade your self-image, and let's be clear, you're not broken, you're not behind, you're not too late. You've just been operating with a limited version of yourself. You've been living on default instead of design. The potential inside you has never left. It's just been waiting for you to wake up. The power to change everything isn't out there. It's within you, dormant, waiting for activation. And the moment you decide that your vision is non-negotiable, everything begins to move in your favor. And you've got to start falling in love with the process, not just the result. Because the person you become in pursuit of your goal is far more valuable than the goal itself. The journey will shape you, refine you, and prepare you for what's next. Stop avoiding the hard days, they're building you. Stop resisting the struggle. It's sculpting your character. You can't demand greatness and then run from the grind. And remember, your environment is stronger than your willpower. If you surround yourself with people who settle, you'll eventually settle. If you surround yourself with people who are hungry, who push boundaries, who don't tolerate mediocrity, you'll start to rise. You're not stuck. You're surrounded. Change your circle, change your life. Energy is contagious, and if you spend your time with people who refuse to lose, you'll start adopting that same fire. But none of this matters without consistency. The greatest separator between those who talk and those who transform is consistency. It's doing what needs to be done, not when it's convenient, but when it's necessary. It's showing up when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when it feels like nothing's working. Because success doesn't come to the most talented, it comes to the most committed. The ones who refuse to quit, who stay in the game long enough to win. And you have to stop chasing motivation and start building momentum. Motivation fades, but momentum compounds. When you take small actions every single day, they add up. One good decision leads to another, and suddenly you're unstoppable. The power isn't in massive leaps, it's in daily discipline. Those small, consistent acts build unshakable confidence because you're proving to yourself that you follow through. And you've been waiting for a sign, but the sign is you. You are the moment you've been waiting for. You are the decision that changes everything. Life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. And you create yourself through courage, through commitment, through relentless pursuit of what sets your soul on fire. And start looking at challenges differently. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" say, "What is this preparing me for?" Every obstacle carries a lesson. Every setback contains a seed of strength. Life isn't punishing you, it's training you. It's showing you where you need to grow, where you need to release control, where you need to trust yourself more deeply. And you've got to stop running from pain and start using it. Pain is feedback, pain is information. It's your body and your soul saying, "Pay attention." It's not there to break you, it's there to break your limits. The most successful people on earth aren't the ones who avoided pain, they're the ones who turned it into purpose. They found meaning in their suffering, and that meaning gave them power. And there's a fire inside you that's been dimmed by doubt, by fear, by the opinions of others. It's time to reignite it. It's time to stop living in reaction to your past and start living in creation of your future. The version of you that can't handle what's next doesn't have to, because you're evolving into someone who can. Every time you face resistance, remember, that's the old you fighting for survival, but the new you is stronger, wiser, hungrier. And your life won't change when you get what you want, it'll change when you decide you won't settle for anything less than what you deserve. There's a power that comes when you draw a line in the sand and say, "This is who I am now, not someday, not eventually, now," because the world doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to certainty. When you speak, move, and act with certainty, doors open that were never visible before. And you've got to lead yourself with the same conviction you'd expect from someone you respect. Stop betraying yourself with excuses. Stop abandoning your goals every time it gets uncomfortable. You are capable of carrying more than you think. You are capable of achieving more than you've dared to imagine. You've just been living beneath your power. And the clock is ticking. Life isn't waiting for you to feel ready. Every second you spend doubting yourself is a second stolen from your destiny. You've been given this moment to make a choice, to rise, to commit, to change. The version of you that's waiting on the other side of this decision is stronger, freer, and more alive than you can imagine. And when you finally step into that version, everything around you will start to rearrange itself to match your new vibration. The people who no longer align will drift away. The opportunities that once seemed out of reach will appear. The clarity you've been searching for will flow, because you'll be operating from power, not pressure, from purpose, not panic. And you'll stop trying to control everything and start trusting yourself. You'll stop chasing validation and start embodying worthiness. You'll stop fearing failure and start embracing feedback. And when that shift happens, life becomes an adventure again. A game you're no longer afraid to play full out. Because the truth is, once you master you, everything else becomes effortless. And because the truth is, once you master you, everything else becomes effortless. The chaos of the world no longer dictates your peace. The opinions of others no longer define your worth. The setbacks that once broke you now build you. You begin to realize that control was never about managing everything outside of you. It was always about mastering what's within you. When your internal world becomes unshakable, the external world starts to align naturally. You move differently. You think differently. You operate from power, not panic. And every morning becomes a chance to design, not just survive. You stop waking up with dread and you start waking up with intention. You stop reacting to life and you start creating it. You begin to ask yourself questions that shift everything. How do I want to feel today? Who do I need to become to experience that feeling? And then, instead of waiting for the right emotion to show up, you generate it. You create your own state. That's the true power, being able to choose how you show up regardless of what's happening around you. And the world has trained you to look for quick fixes, to chase the next secret, the next hack, the next shortcut to success. But mastery isn't built in a moment. It's built through repetition, through alignment, through relentless self-awareness. It's built by doing what others refuse to do, by facing the truth about where you are and who you've been. Because only when you're brutally honest with yourself can you begin to rebuild with strength. And most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort, but discomfort is where growth hides. The pain you're running from contains the lesson you need most. The fear you're avoiding is guarding the door to your next level. Every challenge you've ever faced has been a disguised opportunity for evolution. You either run from it or you rise because of it. There's no middle ground. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck isn't luck. It's courage. The courage to keep walking when it would be easier to quit. And you don't need to know every step ahead. You just need to know the next one. The universe doesn't reward perfection, it rewards movement. You can't steer a parked car, so start moving even if you don't have all the answers. Momentum creates clarity, action builds confidence. You can't think your way into power, you have to act your way into it. And there's a part of you that already knows what you need to do. You've just been drowning that voice with noise, distractions, opinions, doubt. But when you slow down and listen, that inner voice will always guide you toward alignment. It never screams, it whispers. And it whispers in moments of stillness, in the spaces between your thoughts. You have to trust it. Because intuition isn't mystical, it's the wisdom of your soul reminding you of who you really are. And when you start trusting that voice, everything changes. You stop overanalyzing, you stop hesitating, you stop second guessing. You begin to act from instinct, from power, from truth. That's when life starts to flow again, because deep down your soul already knows the path. You've just got to have the courage to walk it. And you've been told to chase success, but success isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. When your energy aligns with your intentions, doors open effortlessly. You'll start noticing synchronicities, people appearing at the right time, opportunities showing up in unexpected ways. That's not luck, that's alignment. When your thoughts, words, and actions are congruent, you become magnetic. But alignment doesn't come from pretending everything's fine. It comes from facing what isn't. It comes from owning your pain, your patterns, your past, and using them as fuel instead of anchors. Every wound you've experienced has carved depth into your character. The very thing you thought disqualified you may be the very thing that qualifies you to lead, to inspire, to create impact. Your scars are proof that you're stronger than what tried to break you, and there will be moments when doubt creeps back in. When the voice of your old identity whispers you can't do this, that's when you remind yourself you're not that person anymore. You've outgrown the version of you that settled. You've evolved past the identity that played small. You are no longer trying to find your power, you are the power. Every time you remember that, the fear loses control. And the mind will always try to pull you back to comfort because it equates comfort with safety. But comfort kills growth. If you're comfortable for too long, you stop expanding. You were not designed to play small. You were built to stretch, to evolve, to lead. So, when life pushes you, don't resist, lean in, because pressure doesn't crush diamonds, it creates them. And every time you face adversity, ask yourself, what is this moment trying to make me? Maybe it's building your patience. Maybe it's shaping your discipline. Maybe it's testing your faith. Life doesn't send challenges to punish you. It sends them to prepare you for the power you said you wanted. You said you wanted growth, so life gave you situations that would make you grow. You said you wanted strength, so it gave you storms to walk through. It's all working for you, not against you. And start paying attention to the energy you bring into every room. You can feel it, can't you? That invisible force that people sense before you even speak. That energy is your message. People may forget your words, but they'll never forget how your energy made them feel. When you show up grounded, focused, certain, you give permission for others to rise too. Your example becomes their evidence that it's possible, and you don't need to shout your greatness. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your results will speak louder than your explanations ever could. Silent confidence is more powerful than loud insecurity. When you truly know who you are, you stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your choices. You stop needing approval because your validation comes from within. And when that happens, you start operating from a place of overflow, not scarcity. You no longer chase relationships, money, or validation. You create them effortlessly because you're no longer needy, you're abundant. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you're ready for. And readiness comes from wholeness, and you've got to learn to move with faith before the evidence shows up. Anyone can believe once they see results. True leaders believe before they see, they act as if it's already done. That energy of certainty pulls the future into the present. You've got to live as if your dreams are already real, walk like it, talk like it, make decisions like it. Because reality bends to those who refuse to doubt their vision and stop asking what if it doesn't work. And start asking what if it does. What if everything you've been through was preparing you for this exact moment? What if your pain was your preparation, your delays were divine timing, your struggles were shaping your strength? What if everything has been happening for you, not to you? When you start seeing life that way, you stop resisting and start rejoicing. Because even the darkest seasons start to make sense when you realize they were pruning you for growth. And you must learn to find peace in the process. Not everything will happen when you want it to, but it will always happen when you're ready for it. Trust the timing, trust the unfolding. The seed doesn't question why it's berry. It knows that's how it begins to grow. You are in your season of becoming. It might not look glamorous, it might not be loud, but transformation rarely is. Growth is quiet. Progress is unseen, and then one day the world looks up and wonders how you became who you are, forgetting that you built it in silence, one decision at a time. And every great transformation begins with one choice: to stop living in reaction to fear and start living in alignment with faith. To stop asking for permission and start giving yourself the authority to act. To stop surviving and start leading your life intentionally. The power to change how you do everything isn't in some distant future. It's in this exact moment, right now, waiting for your command. And the greatest tragedy is not dying. It's dying while never truly living. Most people are alive, but they're not awake. They're breathing, but they're not expanding. They're existing in routines that suffocate their potential. But you're different. You wouldn't still be listening if something inside you wasn't ready to rise. Something in you knows this message isn't just motivation, it's a mirror. A reminder of who you were before the world told you to shrink. And now it's time to remember, to rise, to realign, to reclaim your power and move forward with unstoppable certainty. Because the day you stop settling is the day everything begins to change, not because the world changed, but because you did. And because the day you stop settling is the day everything begins to change, not because the world changed, but because you did. When you shift from waiting to creating, from hoping to acting, from wishing to doing, life bends around that decision. You stop waiting for opportunity to knock and realize you've had the keys in your hand the entire time. You stop chasing miracles and start understanding that you are one. You've always been capable, but you were buried under layers of doubt, fear, and the stories other people told you about what's possible. Those stories are not your destiny. They're your history, and you are not bound by them anymore. And every single thing you've experienced, every heartbreak, every failure, every disappointment was shaping you for this moment. The moments you thought broke you were actually building you. The nights you cried in silence were strengthening your soul. You don't grow when life is easy. You grow when life dares you to rise higher than your excuses. Every challenge that once hurt you has carved depth, wisdom, and resilience into your character. You've been in training for your own greatness, and you've got to stop seeing pain as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. The universe doesn't test you to see you suffer. It tests you to reveal your strength. Every time you think you can't handle something and yet you survive, you expand. That expansion is how power is built, not in comfort, but in confrontation. The confrontation between who you were and who you are becoming. And you are not your past, you are not your mistakes, you are not your circumstances, you are the awareness that chooses how to respond to them. You have the ability to rewrite the story at any moment, because what defines your life is not what happens to you. It's what you decide to do with it. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can stay where you are, or you can rise to where you belong. That's a choice only you can make. And when you truly understand that your decisions shape your destiny, you stop living passively. You stop waiting for permission, for validation, for someone to believe in you, because deep down you realize no one's coming to save you. And that's the most liberating truth you'll ever learn. You are your own rescue, you are your own revolution, and that power once claimed is unstoppable. And you start holding yourself to a higher standard not because someone told you to, but because mediocrity no longer feels comfortable. You start becoming allergic to excuses. You start demanding more from your time, your energy, your focus. You begin to understand that your future is built by what you tolerate. If you tolerate distraction, you'll live distracted. If you tolerate procrastination, you'll live delayed. But when you decide that you'll tolerate nothing less than excellence, life will mirror that decision. And the world makes way for those who know where they're going. Certainty is magnetic. When you walk in purpose, people feel it. When you speak from conviction, opportunities listen. When you act with unwavering belief, doubt can't find space to survive. Most people never experience that level of clarity because they never make a firm decision about who they are and what they stand for. But when you do, everything changes because clarity cuts through confusion like a blade through fog. And it's time to stop overcomplicating what success looks like. It's not about doing 1,000 things right. It's about mastering a few fundamentals and repeating them with consistency. Discipline is the bridge between intention and manifestation. You can have the vision, the talent, the drive, but without discipline, it all fades. Discipline is doing what you said you'd do long after the mood you said it in has left you. Discipline is honoring your word to yourself even when no one's watching. Because that's where true confidence is built, not from results, but from keeping promises to yourself. And you have to train your mind to find progress, not perfection. Most people paralyze themselves waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect feeling. But perfection is just procrastination in disguise. Start where you are with what you have and improve along the way. Because motion creates momentum and momentum creates mastery. The longer you wait to start, the louder fear grows. The moment you take action, fear loses its grip. And stop underestimating the power of small steps. Every great achievement was once a series of tiny, almost invisible actions stacked over time. One page a day becomes a book. One workout becomes a transformation. One conversation becomes a new connection that changes your path. Never underestimate the compound effect of consistency. It's the silent architect of success. And you've got to build emotional endurance. Most people quit not because they lack ability, but because they lack resilience. They can handle the first wave of struggle but crumble when the storm continues. But storms don't destroy the strong, they reveal them. You must become someone who can stay calm in chaos, someone who can find peace in uncertainty. Because emotional mastery is the ultimate form of power. When you can stay grounded while everything around you shakes, you become untouchable. And remember, your energy is your currency. Protect it like it's sacred because it is. Don't waste it on gossip, negativity, or trying to prove your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Every time you engage with something that drains you, you're giving away a piece of your future. Be selective about who and what gets access to your energy. Not everyone deserves to be close to your fire, and surround yourself with people who challenge you, who push you, who see the giant in you even when you feel small. The right people will remind you of your potential when you forget it. They'll hold you accountable to your greatness, not your excuses. And when you find those people, hold on to them, but also be that person for others, because leadership isn't about control, it's about elevation. When you lift others, you rise too, and you've got to feed your faith daily. Whatever you believe in, feed it. Feed it with gratitude, with progress, with self-reflection. Gratitude will ground you, vision will guide you, discipline will grow you. The trifecta of those three will make you unstoppable. You cannot live in fear and gratitude at the same time. One will always silence the other. Choose gratitude, and you'll find strength even in struggle, and when fear shows up, and it will, don't run from it. Thank it, because fear is not your enemy, it's your compass. It's showing you exactly where your growth lies. The things you fear most are often the things you were born to conquer. You can't eliminate fear, but you can walk with it. You can take its hand and say, "You're coming with me." Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement in spite of it. And there will be times when you'll doubt yourself, times when it feels like nothing is working, when the results don't match the effort. But remember, delay is not denial. The seed takes time to grow underground before it breaks the surface. You're being prepared, not punished. Every no, every setback, every disappointment, it's redirecting you to something greater. If you don't give up, you'll eventually see why it had to happen exactly as it did. And in one day, it'll all make sense. You'll look back at everything you thought was breaking you and realize it was actually building you for the life you're now living. You'll understand that nothing was wasted. Every detour, every delay, every heartbreak was part of the design. Life doesn't always give you what you want, but it always gives you what you need to become who you were meant to be. And the only question left is this: are you ready to live like you mean it, to stop existing and start expanding, to stop wishing and start creating? The power to transform your entire life doesn't live in tomorrow. It lives in this moment, right here, right now, in the decision you make next. The decision to no longer settle for the version of you that's afraid, that's hesitant, that's small. Because the real you, the limitless you is waiting, and the moment you step into that version of yourself, the world will have no choice but to step aside.